You are live. So. Yep.
Call the meeting to order. 7:13. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. So first we need to do an organizational meeting. I'm going to actually make a motion to make Raj the temporary chair. Is there a second?
I second the motion. I can't second the motion because I'm the chair. Somebody else has to.
April did.
Okay.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. All right, you're up.
All right. Good evening, guys. Thank you. So this is our reorganization meeting, and typically we do like select our secretary, our president, our chair, and the co-chair, and the rest of the members. So I accept a nomination for chair first, so that then he can choose his co-chair and the secretary. So nomination for the chair.
Nominate Matthew for the chair.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right, motion passed. Take Matthew from there.
Thank you, Robert. Next, I want to nominate April for VP. Or make a motion to nominate April for VP.
I second that. Oh, I make a motion. No, you are making a motion to. Okay. That's okay. I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? None? All right. Would anybody like to be secretary? Yeah,
Do such a good job.
I nominate Jackie to be the secretary. I make a motion to nominate Jackie to be the secretary.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
All right. Now we have chair, co-chair, secretary. So I resign my post.
Great while we had you. Great while I was there. So last meeting was in November. I'm assuming everybody had time to look over those minutes. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those minutes? Or I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I second.
Awesome. All those in favor of approving it? Signify by saying
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. All right. Public comment. We actually have a crowd today. Any speakers already in here? Are they?
Yes. So we do have a presentation today from the South Parkland Youth Association with John Sarator and Jared Sowers for a project at Grange Park that they would like to present to the Park and Rec Board. As this is a project that has to get done in a township park, first comes to you. And then as the board, you would make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, either yes to move ahead with the project or no. But the first step is for them to do their presentation to you as the board. So as they come up to start talking, I will pull their presentation up so we can see it on the screen.
We want to move that all the way to the end.
I would love to get them in and out. I'm sure they would love to too. So if you'd like to move it up.
And the other gentleman, do you have a comment this here for just one comment? You can come up. Okay. Yeah, we public comment first.
Part of the.
I'm sorry, can you state your name and address? Thank you.
So I'm part of the open space recreation committee. There seems to be a lot of interest about having cricket facilities somehow in the township here, and there was quite a number of people there. So what I'd like to do is encourage some way where we could go ahead and utilize the existing fields as a multi-purpose field and somehow work a cricket, I guess they call it the pitch, in the middle between that, and look at doing something like that so that it can be actually reserved I hate to see us start going ahead and putting in dedicated cricket field until we know what the actual usage is going to be and how popular it's going to be and whatnot. I know Raj is obviously this is part of your. You were part of the discussion on Tuesday night when we had the public meeting, and I don't know whether there's any proposals or anything because I think there's an interest to have that move on faster than what that planning committee, which is more of a longer range, 3, 5, 10-year type of program. So I'd like to have that discussed at the board here and figure out what we're going to do to go ahead and accommodate that discussion. So that's just the comment that I'd like to have to see that.
Okay, I know we looked into cricket fields in the past. I don't think we actually looked into like a temporary field. That may be a solution.
Yeah, so I did pull up Google Earth, and there are 2 fields, existing fields. And it looks like there could be a pitch put in the middle between the 2 fields, which wouldn't interfere with soccer or flag football or the other sports that are played there. Obviously, the field would have to get reserved for those particular matches and have to be reserved as a bundle to particular fields. I see that as a shorter term solution that would accommodate the needs without having to build a field yet. I know there's obviously it's going to conflict with other particular activities, but certainly got to be accommodated to those particular things. So if somebody would like to see more details, I'd be happy to show you what I looked at and came up with in regard to particular proposal. I don't know those details. I think they play all year round, understanding. Not in the winter, of course.
I know some of the details. They play typically during the spring, like late spring till the summer end. That's the season. But because it's outdoor even, so if that gets too cold, obviously they can't play. But if it is temperature within 50s, 60s, they play. It's just when the temperature falls down, they stop playing. So probably what I'm saying because it's just
The other players are actually playing league or.
they have a big league. They have around probably 20 teams. It's a big league. So it's the big and I'm sure this board has passed a motion in 2023, I guess. Yes, I have the details. I can pull up the emails and then see we passed the motion and
Who is the motion you want?
motion for approval. They already approved the cricket field and for recommendation has been gone to the supervisors and it's gone to the supervisors and is sitting there. I don't know what's going on with that. So I would like to have this comment on the records. Like, please see the whenever rec board makes some recommendation to the board of supervisors, maybe that our rate manager will make sure that it follow through, or if it is not follow through, it has to be back to us like what happening because we don't go to the supervisor board meeting sometimes. So I think it should be communicated to us. Otherwise, there is a breakdown in communication.
Right.
Can do, and just some updates from Tuesday night's public meeting. One of the gentlemen who I spoke to after the meeting emailed me, and he's been connected to the rental process and recommended to schedule time with Emily and I to sit down and discuss it further. From what I know from him, the season is April to October. They're looking for Saturdays and Sundays, and they've outgrown their current location. So we will continue those conversations with them for wants and needs. But also to reiterate what Michael had said, we mentioned at the comprehensive park rec open space plan meeting on Tuesday night that Simone Collins and their team and what we've been working on since June is a airplane's 30,000 foot level of where we should be going, not a okay, we heard everything everyone said. Now we're going to tell you where to put each amenity and how to put it in. That's not how granular they're getting. What they're going to give the township is overall recommendations to guide how we make our decisions moving forward.
I have a comment for that. I was there in this meeting, there were only selected parks were touched. I see the space in the Grange Park, which they have no plans for. So I don't know what Seven Columns is doing, but they should at least touch every park and at least the board know, the rec board know what are their plans for the open space in all the parks, not only the new park they're going to develop. Because I for sure know that there's an open space in the Grange Park, and I don't know who is planning what on that space as a
Correct.
board member.
Correct. And their scope of work is to provide us general information. As Jeff said on Tuesday, and we will continue to reiterate when we get to the next public meeting, the next steering committee meeting, is this is a plan that is going to help us then do a master plan for the various park facilities inside of each park. So, for example, they're giving us overall recommendations, like they said with the benchmarking. And I don't want to get too granular with it right now because I know we have a packed agenda, but it may say, hey, you need a cricket field or you need 6 more tennis courts, whatever those, like they've said about environmental education at the quarry facility. We then will take those recommendations and whether it's still working with Simone Collins or it's working with someone else, say, okay, based on the comprehensive plan, we now want to come up with a master plan for Caybrook Green Hills or same park. I don't want to repeat it. Lone Lane or Grange. That's the next step after this plan.
So I see that there was kind of not everybody wasn't on the same wavelength. Okay, so I saw at Tuesday night there was a need for something maybe immediately within the summer time for short period, because that meeting was really set up for a longer range plan. So afterwards, and looking at some of the dimensions, I did pull up Google Earth on Grange, and it looks like that field, because there's quite a large circle that cricket field picks up, could work out well with a pitch in between the two. I don't know if you want to pull up the Google Earth on or Google Maps on Grange, it's offline, but I did find a way of facilitating it in. Now it's probably going to create some conflict with existing activities. And again, the reservation process and making sure that we're fully utilizing the fields would be important. Maybe they have to play at a different time or whatever else. But those were my thoughts after the meeting, and I thought I'd share it with the rec board, because I think you are the guys that really need to work that out, right? Because this is something that is not a 3 to 10 year plan. This is something that needs to be worked out in the short term.
It is. I think Ryan's going to be meeting with those people, so hopefully he'll have good feedback for us and actually make some moves on the thing. Sorry that it was approved in 2023 and it was still sitting. Ryan, I did have a question. I don't know if you have the answer though. So if we approve something here at the board level and it goes to the board of supervisors and it does sit, it just sits there, correct?
They take an action on it.
I know they have a long list of stuff and they can only work on whatever's pressing.
So I know there are some other long-term projects that are out there that are finally getting to completion stages. I know there was one back in 2022 that was approved by the Board of Supervisors to move forward that we're just getting to, not going in nitty gritty about it, but just getting it to come to fruition in spring of 2025.
And things don't get knocked off.
No. Also, keep in mind that recreation staff turnover between 2022 and 2024. Some of it I am playing catch up. For example, the one is a lighting project that has taken a significant amount of time to get completed. But I will look and see where those motions were, see what actions were taken, and I'll bring it back to the board and see where we're at to move forward.
Okay, so thank you for hearing me on that. The other thing that Ryan and I have spoken about several times, at this point, bringing awareness to the rec board. Jim fields take a lot of abuse, okay? Grow some good grass, there's no irrigation system there, okay? It's just something that, we need to make sure that we continue to look at the turf management process and maybe even recycling and maybe idling some of the fields for a period of time to let some of the turf grow in and create some sort of watering program or whatever it is to improve the soil or whatever it needs to be. But I think it's something to think about. And if anything, I see the activity at Grange getting more and more, and it's going to just destroy the turf there if we don't take an action plan to do it. So,
I believe there is an action plan, right?
So we did talk with a firm in late fall about a plan that was started and obviously turned over, and I picked it back up. Went on site, talked about current conditions, got a game plan. We actually started to implement that game plan in fall of 2024. We did aerate some of the worst sections of Grange that get a lot of use, particularly the current lit fields and rec field area within fall aeration. We plan to do a spring aeration, and we've talked with our major user groups about best times to do seeding and a plan, but it is a multi-year plan, and it's also accounting for if a field area is shut down, well, that means that other areas are then going to get overused and how we continue so we don't end up back where we're at. We do have a pretty good idea. We do have some solid timelines, and we're going to continue to work towards that. The biggest piece is everyone agreeing to give fields rest. So, for example, it's going to hit on it a little bit later, but we had kids' New Year's Eve that fell on December 31st. Certain areas of the fields were wet because we finally got some rain in late December. We purposely moved the event so it was in parking lots and it was on non-field spaces of Grange Park. If we are going to tell user groups to not use a facility, we as the township should not be then going on that field and having activity or facility. So we're holding up our end, and we're going to make sure we all work together to do improve that. Not to give too much away, but we also Grange, we know obviously is loved by the township. It is the most highly attended park we have. It's also a regional destination, and I think we get to a point where we have some national level things that would like to come to that facility. So we are aware, and we're putting a plan in place.
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, next.
My name is John Serator. I'm representing South Parkland. I'm a resident of Oakland Country for almost 15 years. This is Jared Saunders. He's also representing South Parkland. I run our lacrosse association for South Parkland, and then also I'm involved heavily with the high school program. My son is a freshman there, and my daughter soon to be going there. Jared has 3 sons that are also playing lacrosse for us. So we would like to propose to build a block wall referred to as a bounce back wall for kids and adults, whoever to practice with. So Jared has some more details. He can explain.
Sure. Maybe like a printout of this.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk about this proposed project. So this is a project that SPYA Lacrosse has been dreaming about for years. We really got some traction this past spring. I've been coaching for 8 years, and we did our first major fundraiser in those 8 years with a project geared towards Let's Sell Pizzas to save, to raise money to build this bounce back wall. And in just 1 year, we raised over $7,000. So I think that speaks to the support for this project. The bounce back wall, kickback wall, call it a training wall, is basically just a CMU block wall that we built at a location in the park. We met with some of the park staff to try to find a location that would be the best to avoid utility conflicts and just be a safe place for this type of facility. But essentially, it's a block wall that kids at play soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, baseball, softball, just have solid surface to bounce the ball off. It's throwing and catching, or kicking and receiving a pass, right? This is something that a lot of us had as kids. There's a brick wall in your house, and there's not a lot of houses in the township that have a brick wall anywhere on any side of the house. So when the lacrosse program started in 1998, when I was in high school, coaches gave everybody sticks and said, go find a wall, throw and catch, right? And unfortunately, there's not those opportunities anymore in the township. So this would be a wall that would be built, the cost would be covered, and it would be built and managed by SBYA at no burden to the township, right? So we would raise the funds to pay for the wall, we would manage building the wall, we would maintain the wall long term, and it would be a facility within the park. We've been working with, so lacrosse has been working on a location for the wall, and you'll see the northern yellow wall area. That's essentially, they call it midway between the equipment shed and like the splash park. It's really a location in the park that can never really be utilized for a field. It's kind of the periphery. The good part is it has great access to the parking lot. So, but at the same time, it's perpendicular parking lot, so an errant ball doesn't bounce into the street or towards cars or anything like that. I'll say this as a lacrosse coach: spring sports are the toughest sports to coach. Our season starts in March, and I'm sure all of you know what kind of condition Grange Park is like in March. The fields are soggy, typically not allowed on the fields. There's been years where we've had our first game without being able to step foot on the lacrosse field because we're playing on another township that has either turf or has fields that drain well. So it really puts us at a disadvantage for, we have over 200 kids playing lacrosse, boys and girls, and puts them in a tough spot to be able to get out there and get some practice in before a game. Despite that, we compete at a high level and play in championships every year, but we want to give these kids the opportunity to get out and practice.
This also is for the high school kids as well. They're in here, they have a place to go train this time of year as well, especially over the winter. We have a plan, multiple part of the plan is that it's right by the light pole, so we can put a light on it eventually with motion, so that motion is detected and it will eliminate, not eliminate, but reduce the chance of vandalism. And we have a parent who works for a company that's willing to donate the sealer that's an anti-graffiti paint. So if in the event someone does tag the wall, it can be easily scrubbed off with soap and water.
So, when it comes to facilities in the park, it's a pretty simple one. In terms of, we're literally just building a block wall, right? Sealing it, low maintenance, but we're going to make sure it's built right if we get approval to proceed. So South Barnum will work together and we'll get the engineer drawings done. Structural wall, right? So the foundation will have to be poured, that type of thing. Like I said, we would continue to fundraise as a youth association to make sure we have the funds to handle maintenance moving forward. Not a whole lot of maintenance on the wall, but nonetheless, we wanted to make sure it's in good usable condition and not an eyesore in the park. Been talking with Scott Faust about the wall as well. As I mentioned, well, let me back up a minute. So you see we have two locations shown on this drawing. So the idea was to build two walls, kind of economy of scale and scope here. Going to build the wall for soccer and a wall for lacrosse, both in locations outside of where the fields would ever be. You never have fields right up against the parking lot. So kind of on the peripheries, but with easy access. And we'd like to build both walls. We have a quote to build both walls, and we have the funds to build both walls. Talking to Scott, the township obviously has access to backhoes and site equipment. So we asked Scott, would the township be able to just dig and pour the footing, so that way we can pay for the masonry contractor to come in, set the rebar, place the block, grout the block, then we would seal coat it, and so on and so forth. So kind of transition where the project would go vertical and the township would pour that footing. Kind of a minimal cost for a $20,000, amenity to the park. And Scott was receptive obviously more conversations to be had there. It's not contingent upon that, but we'd like to keep it on budget by working with the township on that aspect of it.
To elaborate on Jared, we Scott and myself met with SPYA with Dave, Jared, and John. The township responsibility on this at this point is helping with site preparation. South Parkland would go through all the required permitting processes, drawings, things like that, just like any other contractor would for a project of this size and scope. And also with the understanding that once it's up and it is in a public park, it is an amenity. So if I want to go with my kids and kick a soccer ball, I'm open to do so. It's not a gated facility. It's not a fenced-in facility. It's not specific to one organization either. So they've been in communication with us, and pending where this goes as far as the approval process, we are ready to take the next steps and help present to the board of supervisors if necessary, and be ready to assist through the permitting process and site prep process.
I think that's actually one of the best aspects. And if you like this, we've been coaching for probably 11 years. Forever. But we put everything we have into coaching. We really do. There's a lot of great, we have a lot of other great parents and volunteers that coach. But there's a lot of kids. And I think as a coach, especially now more than ever, you really want to be able to give kids the opportunity to build their skills on their own. I think having independence and being able to do that on your time, if you want to get better, having amenity, you go with your stick and a ball and work for an hour and you get better, right-handed or left-handed thrower or kicker, as a baseball player, getting better at your ground balls. You're not requiring the coach's time. I think that there's like that self-resilience aspect of being a youth athlete right now that's really important to give them training facilities or a training amenity that they can utilize. And the same thing goes especially, I recruit pretty heavy to try to bring new kids into the lacrosse program because I think it's a great sport. But there's a lot of kids that kind of get lost in a spring sport that they don't play baseball anymore and now they're looking. And to be able to give them an opportunity to go and train, listen, work on these skills, and they can go there at any time and work on their own. I think that's really important because there is only so much time in the day for our practices and access to the field. So that's a lot. I know I've said a lot. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
Why separate walls for lacrosse and soccer?
It was geographical. So lacrosse typically uses that upper portion where the lighted fields are because of the time of year that we start our season. Like Jared said, we start in March outside, but we are indoors already over at St. Luke's. So it's just that's there. And then soccer uses that whole down portion. So having two walls, just, lacrosse has got 200 to 300 kids every year. Soccer's pushing 800.
Right.
So there would just be,
walls, will they be double-sided use?
yes.
Okay. Are you proposing that it would be grass or that it would be some sort of turf or a solid surface?
So we've gone around many different avenues with that one, and what we came up with was recently, what we are looking to do is put in the underground mechanics for turf. So put the curb in around the base, put the drainage in. It'd be like a 60-foot wide by 50-foot area. It would take up space. And we're in discussions right now with trying to find remnants. So are you familiar with Twin Lakes Golf Course? They have their turf field. They're looking to replace that. I actually spoke to them today, and they're willing to sell their old turf remnants to us to put down temporarily until we can afford to put in new turf. But it would be something that would be then a year-round surface that could be used.
Did you say it could be dual-sided?
It is double-sided, yes. So you can have kids on both sides. So what we're proposing is one 40-foot wall long. You could easily put 15 kids on each side of that wall. So one whole team could practice on that. Or if baseball shows up and they're using one side and lacrosse is using the other, that can all be done.
How about making it a handball court so that it could be used for handball as well?
Then you'd have to put a concrete slab in. That is another option.
Yeah,
Um,
I did look into that. So the cost to do a concrete apron that size was considerably more than the wall. So we didn't need it for the SPYA. It doesn't have a handball team, So that's why I was kind of like, let's focus on, yeah. But
We even thought about it for pickleball. We were talking, but then we were like, okay, we don't know if we really want all the pickleball people there all the time. So selfishness.
Did you think about having the tennis play, like you need a ball for the tennis to practice too? So, did you ever think about that too? Like, okay, the tennis kids want to practice with the ball.
I think there's no reason why it couldn't. I mean, selfishly, because I think SPYA is raising the funds to do it, and SPYA doesn't have a tennis team. It was kind of like, let's put those funds towards.
I
We're
understand your
speaking
selfishness, but
you
the
know,
board has to see how many kids, more township people can use it or not. Like, not only the SPYA kids, I know, appreciate that you are donating it, or you are building the wall, but this is the township park, a
Sure.
public park.
Right.
So we need to see if the more public can use it once there's amenity there. That's my
I
point.
think it'd be unrealistic though for SPYA to fundraise to put a tennis surface down when SPYA doesn't have a tennis.
I'm just asking a question because it's a public park.
Understood.
Again, if it's something that you guys are in agreement with, we could, there's no reason that right in that same location, you couldn't put two walls and one's concrete slab and one's there. For the cost, it's not that much money to put the wall up.
I was volleyball player and I used to go and use a wall to
Exactly.
practice
Volleyball's
serving,
another
but,
one. And I
you know,
know
you
somebody's
use
trying to.
a handball court, yeah,
For the youth,
practice
so.
serving.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like such a simple thing, but it really does get utilized by a multitude of sports to just have.
Jared and I are speaking from lacrosse because that's what we do. I mean, I live and breathe it. That's all my kids do. They play lacrosse and soccer. And I can tell you, my shed's got holes in it from lacrosse balls. My daughter has put holes in the siding with her soccer balls. So it's like we need something that they can go do. And some children tried to use the new building that are there. The shed where the lights are contained. There were kids that were using that, kicking soccer balls against it, and not that it was practiced that way. Like it wasn't us orchestrating it, but there's dents and dings in the metal. This metal's just not designed. So giving them, you can speak to that. You've seen it. Giving them an ounce. Was that? Oh, yeah. Well, they got yelled at. That you've seen it. Giving them an ounce. Was that? Oh, yeah. Well, they got yelled at when we found out. Don't worry. Okay.
A 40-foot long wall that's 12 feet high in the middle of the park seems like a very big eyesore.
Yeah.
And then having to move them. There's no other places you can put them or no other parks in the township that you recommend?
Well, these 6 fields are utilized for lacrosse. So,
But that's just for training. The wall is just for training though, right?
yeah, but we would train during practice. So we would be a part of practice. We would go use the wall, to start practice every day. So that's why specifically Grange Park and then specifically in areas where the kids aren't crossing the street. And we do, this one the northern one you would drive past and probably never see it. There's a bunch of trees there. It's against a retention basin and tucked between there and a building. It's not a marquee location.
You could paint it or stain it with the anti-graffiti painting to make it disguised, make it a neutral color. We could make it look like the buildings that are there. With a tan color with a green coating on the top, make it look similar.
To do a mural contest and have a hold a mural contest and have
We were hoping to be able to do both the upper and the lower one at the same time.
blank canvas for graffiti.
So then, and then the games are also had at the same exact spot where the walls are going to be, right?
Games are held on the field right there where it says lacrosse wall.
Right.
That's one of the fields. There's 3 fields there. And then we use over by where the concession stand is. Because lacrosse has a tendency to burn out certain areas of the field, we have met with Scott Fountain and Jim Solstice numerous times. We spread out our games. So we practice in one facility and then we'll practice over where football does so that we don't kill certain areas of the fields. So soccer spread out across the whole field. Football is confined to usually 2 ruts, right? They'll burn out 2 ruts. Lacrosse will it burns out right around the goal cage. So we move things around, we circle fields, we rotate them every year to try to help with what Brian's trying to achieve, keep the grass growing. Every year, Jim and Scott hear from me probably 20 times trying to figure out what we can do. We'll shift the field 10 foot one way or another to also help with that. But they do practice typically in those areas again because of the lights.
So if you have to shift the fields, and they can't use that lacrosse field, they have to go to a different lacrosse field, then go.
Now, that is in the field right here. So where you're looking right here,
By the 40-foot wall?
this here,
Yeah.
this is the field area. This is a light pole right there. That's where we want to put the in front of so we can have it lit.
So that's the field that they play in?
They play down here.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you get moved from that field, you'd have to go practice in another field and still walk all the way back up to the wall? Or no?
We practiced here, we practiced here, we practiced here.
We move around.
We,
Equipment shed is right there.
So it's not, so what I'm trying to get at, it just seems like it's an eyesore. It seems like it's a great idea to just see if there's another location where you can put it, but it seems like when you guys are practicing, you don't always practice right next to that wall, so it's not uncommon for you guys to practice all the way over here and then walk all the way up there to go do your practice at the wall. So why can't we just find a place that's maybe out of the way?
So the only reason, I guess, one of the main reasons we were up in this region was because of the electrical.
So just Jared and John did use temporary paint to mark out the footprint, and Scott and I checked where the utilities were in that area, which is why it's in the corner where it's stated, because we have to avoid water lines and electric lines that we know in future projects.
Excavate and pour the concrete for it.
I think that's what was discussed.
So is that the original? He said he would excavate. He said he would-
Okay.
I will.
That's something that he might
I'll confirm that one, Jim.
Not a deal breaker. So we've already roughly have, I think we have almost $10,000 or $12,000 set aside for the two walls. Understandably,
I didn't know if there was another meeting out there.
no, but if we have there, I think there was like 5 or 6 meetings, but like the curb, if we put the curb in for the future turf, that's additional funds. We understand that, but it's a lot cheaper to put it all in when it's excavated the first time than it is to come back and do it again. And Jared and I both, I'm a contractor. I work for GD Ekman, a highway contractor, and he works for Hillwood, which is a development company. So we both understand.
So one more silly question. So does it have to, when they're, so these walls, does it have to be, like field, or can it be pavement?
It could be pavement. We considered pavement to pave an area in front of the walls. We're kind of back to, I mean, if you're talking $20,000 to pave an area in front of the wall or put a concrete apron, right? So it's costly. We considered utilizing a parking area.
Oh, okay, never mind. And that's what I was gonna say. Why don't we just put at the end of a parking lot?
We did that, but we thought then we looked at balls. So a ball, errant, car drives by, kid throws a ball, misses it, catches, puts a hole in the kid's car window. So we're like, okay, we need to stay away from the parking, hence why we turned them 90 degrees from the parking lot.
It was thought about, and it was, well, it gets plowed, so that's great. The kids could jump on the day after a snowstorm because you're plowing anyway. But then it was kind of like, well, what happens if people park right in front of the wall? Being like, well, it's a parking spot. I'll park here, then the kids can't use it. So there's no dumb questions, and we've kind of tried to explore everything. It is, you want to come up with the best, most cost-effective solution that's best for everybody. And that's what we landed here. I'm not saying that this is the only place it can be, but we did give a lot of thought to it. But if there's a spot it should be that's a better location, we're open to that. But we did consider the whole park and kind of where it's tucked in, that it would never affect the possibility to build any kind of field or other use.
Did you guys consider any other park than Grange Park?
No, only because this is the center of lacrosse.
This is where we were designated to play. We put the South Parkland built the shed for the electrical units, and that's where we store all of our equipment. All of our nets are stored on trailers and parked there.
We have nets thrown along the fences to catch lacrosse balls when they miss the net, so they don't.
You want to say the Grange Park is a SPYU park?
I'm not saying that. We invested a lot of money there because that's where we were designated to go.
I'm just commenting.
We put out $10,000 in
I'm just
backstops in
commenting
there.
what sense I'm getting.
I'm just trying to give you a sense of why this is why we're trying to do it at Grange.
There's been a lot of investment in Grange, so you kind of want to keep it where your investment is. It's tough. You know, with the reseeding, and the grass maintenance project, you know, we may get displaced, which is understandable. But think about parents that have 3 kids on 3 different teams that all practice starts at 5 o'clock and they have to drop off at the high school at Grange and at name another park, right? All at the same time. When you have 3 kids playing the same sport and it's the same practice schedule, it really doesn't make sense to centralize your facilities. And with that comes, you know, I'm out there every spring with a bag of seed and some spring topsoil trying to fix the messes from football. So it's we don't just use and abuse. I mean, we certainly try to do our part to.
And these kids also play football, so it's not that.
But we try to, you know, I mean, you try to take ownership and do it better than you have. Really cool.
So Brian, do you think this will affect any activities, any township events or anything like that?
No, I think we spent a lot of time talking about these locations with Jared and John and Dave, and I think even on some of these footprints, it's actually something that could add to even township events. You know, for example, let's say we're starting to add an interactive kid activity, and now we have a contained space to do it in. You know, there's creative options. I don't think it's going to have a negative effect in township events at all.
I don't have any more questions from you. Thank you, gentlemen. Anybody else?
I'm just gonna make a motion to approve the wall project.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know if it's semantics, but it's approving it to go to the Board of Supervisors for approval.
All right. You want to start a discussion, or do you want to pass a motion? What do you want?
No. Start discussion.
You want to discuss? I agree with you that the ISO, but I agree with you, gentlemen, also. I hear both the points, and I hear the township points too. That this is the amenity to the township. It's $20,000 wall. I love that SPY. I'm hard on it, but that's how we should ask the questions too. It's not like, and definitely it's ISO. So I agree with that. Looking at the fields and kids accessibility, like they want to practice, they want to play, that's where they want the ball. Make sense?
Anybody else?
So now I'm defending them. I was hard on them.
Perhaps we should get price quote before we make final approval.
Once this is approved, just to go to the board so the board can approve it, but they already have their funding.
We have a bunch of quotes, and we'll be willing to share all that information. I think we're still quoting it out for some of it.
Yeah, we have 3 quotes. We kind of vetted out the most competitive price.
One thing, as you said, we should have a neutral color and so
Obviously, it would be something that you guys do.
and I agree, it's eyesore. Like, you know, it's like Grange Park, as you say, it's going to be the national level park. And then you drive by on a national level park and you see a wall, 2 walls, one this side and one that side of the field. I know what lacrosse is, but if the people are driving by, they're like, what are these walls?
I bet you wouldn't even realize how many of them are around the area, different parks, just not in this area.
Where?
Lower Back has one over at Quarry Park. Easton has one over at their facility, over where they have their fields. Northampton has one. I think Forks Township has one. Now, none of them are lit. They don't get used. Some of them are in school districts, so they get they're like on school grounds, so they get much higher police presence than we do. But I can't really say that. There's always police at Grange, so I can't say that. But I mean, they're around. A lot of times they use them, they put them on the backside of dugouts. So they'll build like an inverted dugout for baseball, and then you use the backside of the dugout. So there are ways to disguise it. I mean, we can even do some sort of landscaping, not this year, raise some more funds, put some landscaping around it or something. Obviously, you don't want to hide it, because as soon as we hide it, that's what's going to attract somebody to vandalize it. It needs to be visible. But we could always use extra trees at Grange. I know that for a fact.
I love that fact that we can cover it on that side of the parking lot side. put some trees on so that it's just a shed of that. You see, there's nothing there on the bare side of the parking lot, there's nothing there.
Can I make
Right.
a couple of comments? One, is there any way of putting some sort of video surveillance? Because I will tell you, and you probably need to talk to the other townships and municipalities, but I do see this as a graffiti attraction, right? So,
That's why they're putting it in the open area.
yeah, but the guys don't know that when they start going spraying. Okay. So, is it something that, is there a video surveillance or anything up in that area, Jim, that, might be helpful?
At this point, no, there isn't any.
But there is Wi-Fi.
The closest will be at the splash park. But I don't see an issue so much as needing to have a survey, have a video. I don't think perceive that as a big problem.
You're not gonna put any concession stands or block, and they've never been tagged.
Okay, so,
If they're not doing the buildings that's out there by itself.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Gonna go and,
okay, fair enough.
I
And
mean,
you can always add that later.
I don't think it's gonna be.
Again, you put a motion light on there, and that could be for, there's multiple reasons. It's a kid there at 7 o'clock at night practicing, or it's someone doing it late at night, and when the light turns on, they're gonna run, so.
There's gonna be power there, you said? There's going to be power at each wall?
There's power there at the pole, there's existing light poles there, so we just have to tap off
I
that.
saw that, I know where it is.
No, the field lights.
So field lights.
Field lights. All here.
They were over there, yeah, I know where that's.
So we tried to locate them.
So that's the other one there, on the soccer one down there, there's a pole, and at the other location, if they were put on the other side, that's where the new lighting is supposed to go. So the intent is that they're going where poles would technically.
So can we just make a recommendation that we do put in a motion sensor lights?
Absolutely.
So,
You wanna be able to use it till 9, 10 o'clock at night, so.
But don't people live right there and the motion activated light would be pretty annoying.
well, the park's closed at 6, so no one should be there anyway. So if the light's going off, that means they shouldn't be there to begin with.
What if there's like a deer?
Well, he needs to stop playing lacrosse.
So
It is-
the lights are shining up through. The pickleball lights are on until 10 o'clock at night during the spring.
Yes.
So I mean,
9 o'clock.
Right.
I would love to be 9 till 10 o'clock.
all right, they're on until 9 o'clock at night, so I mean, again. Any other discussion?
Okay, I make a motion to, or do you want to make a motion?
From that, Matthew.
Wait,
You're still discussing?
Like to see it use for murals on it, so that this way then it eliminates that blank canvas and it makes it less of an eyesore. If you have it muraled up, and we can even turn to high school or something and hold it as a mural contest. Everybody does a drawing, you submit it, and you pick the winners.
I've seen that done too.
Mhm.
And then you can put the graffiti painting over top of it, it's a clear coat.
Absolutely, yes.
But you have to decide if you want that, then we can't put the graffiti paint on, because getting graffiti paint off, to protect them is not easy. Lots of power washing.
Does a clear coat have an anti-graffiti to it?
What's that?
Does the clear coat have like an anti-graffiti?
Yeah, you can do clear coat. So like when, for like a PennDOT bridge or like a retaining wall, sound wall that we do,
Yeah.
we'll put in graffiti paint on those. But if once you put the paint on, the graffiti paint,
Yeah.
you're not, anything you paint on will eventually fade or you can scrub off.
Okay.
So, but if you put that on first, it's gonna be harder to put a mural on top.
Yeah, makes sense.
We would probably have to like sandblast it or pressure wash it with like really heavy pressure.
And put
I'm
in
not
there.
at all, I'm in favor of that. I would just ask that it not be like a condition because who knows if we'd be able to make it all with the high school. And I think it's a great idea.
Maybe we could paint it with like trees, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Like nature's.
yeah,
Is
That's a
the-
great idea.
yeah, there's
Do like, figures playing different sports.
a problem for the kids warming up.
No,
There was-
you like aim for the sun, aim for that flower, like it's, I mean, it gives you some perspective as opposed to just a white wall. I don't think, I wouldn't have that, there would be no hesitation. I would just say, I wouldn't want that to be a condition, because who knows if the high school has the time to allocate to a program to do how that can go.
Actually, I think it would be great. You paint a bunch of bodies on it, and then we go get Nazareth jerseys and hang them on them and tell the kids to hit them in the head. That's just me.
No.
Yeah, put my face on it. The kids are throwing the ball.
All right, so I'll make a motion to preliminary approve the wall project project to go to the Board of Supervisors with stipulations that there would be some sort of motion lights and potentially something to make it less of an eyesore, whether it be a mural, different color paint, or just the best that you guys can do.
I second that.
You think if, you're right, that it still has to go a certain time.
No, it'd be a motion, so we would.
Yeah, if somebody comes at midnight, that's the motion, off, it's gonna come on.
Yeah, wouldn't it be good to have a police officer driving around the
You know,
bypass would see someone in the park when they're not supposed to?
Yeah.
That's what we were thinking, with motion would help deter any vandalism. That's.
If it goes off at midnight, no one's supposed, I mean, unless it's an animal, then yeah. But a person shouldn't be there. But you're right, if there's deer,
They did put motion lights on the building out there because someone tried breaking in recently. So there's motion lights on the actual shed to help deter them from trying to get into the shed.
I second the motion.
all those in, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Abstain? So moved.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
I have a conference call.
All right. Moving along. Fall winter program statistics. Brian, you awake?
Yep, I'm good to go. So before I start with the staff report, each of you have in front of you a box. Make sure Raj gets his. That is a holiday gift from Upper McCundy Township for your volunteerism and service here with the Park and Rec Board. So as a thank you from all of us here at Upper McCundy. I would love to tell you what it is. I think it's a wireless speaker of sorts. So please enjoy responsibly. So what I realized I had not been doing, so I do apologize, is that we would provide a monthly report to the Board of Rec, the Park and Recreation Board, about kind of where we're at as the department. It's very similar to what we do for the Board of Supervisors meeting. So I was able to bring it back. It's the second page in the packet you have in front of you. And just to give an overview, a snapshot of fall winter programming, we have 18 different programs going on, 14 of which have filled or are at capacity. Our one example is our expanded wildlands environmental education programs, our night hikes over at Lone Lane Park, our Fluffy Friends and S'mores that occurred back in December reached 34 participants. And our next one, Animal Footprints and Tracking, that just occurred this past weekend, was up to 29, which is also filled. So we're actually over capacity for the Fluffy Friends and S'mores. Holiday Zumba Party and Toy Drive maxed out at 45 participants, and that's about the same number for the winter session currently going on. Our Gentle Yoga, we actually had to add a session. Little Athletics and Mighty Kick Soccer, we've also had to add age group offerings that are almost all maxing out. So
Yoga.
very gentle. You're not going to sweat. You're not going to, have cramps the next day or anything like that. It's a calmer setup. And that's over at Veterans Elementary School in the cafeterias.
They're called Gentle Yoga.
Yep, it is called by the name. It's called Gentle Yoga. So it's
Do you like do anything?
Very good.
and it's a newer instructor. It seems to have an increased following. Same with our Zumba class. So we have actually a new instructor, and her following has brought more participants with her. We are continuing to evaluate our drop-in open volleyball and basketball programs. I put estimates there because it does fluctuate. It's a drop-in program, but they are higher than last year. So we are seeing increasing numbers. I know Mike is itching for us to get more volleyball courts and basketball courts because of the number of people who are showing up. It is a good challenge to have. And we're also asking that those who do those programs stay patient as the community center evolves and construction progresses, because we do know there's going to be a need for that kind of open activity at the community center once that comes online. We had approximately 1,500 participants participate in Kids New Year's Eve on December 31st. It was a Tuesday. It was a weekday. It was one of the first days I've seen Grange Park without wind coming through it. It was very, very low and calm, and it was a great turnout. One of the biggest hits was our face painters. They had lines the entire event. The inflatables for kids were also a hit. And we tried something new. We had a mobile video game trailer that came out. It's basically like a very long, I don't know, 15, 20-foot trailer with various video game systems that kids can go and play and engage with for a couple of minutes while they're at the events. So the balloon drop was also a success this year. Bigger crowd, great drop. And what I really want to take pride in with the Upper Macungie community is everyone who helped immediately clean up broken balloons. This wasn't the public works staff or park staff hours of cleanup. It was everyone doing their part to assist and leave the park better than they found it. So that was very nice to see, and I'm happy to continue to have that happen at our events.
So with that event, so normally we always have it on the weekend. And I figured out
Yep.
how that happened, but not having it on the weekend this time. So what's the plan moving forward? We're no longer gonna have it on the weekend.
We have a lot of time to evaluate. We currently are projecting to have it on New Year's Eve again in 2025. But if that is a discussion item with the board to make suggestions,
This was
we're open to it.
First year. Normally what we do, kind of make it fair. I'm surprised that many people came out on a Tuesday to begin with. So maybe if we did on a Saturday, I don't know how many people actually show. It'd be way more than that. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. But previously we did it, just move it either the weekend before or after.
Then it wouldn't be New Year's Eve. So
Yeah, that was the
you
thing.
need a different name.
So, benefit to do it on a weekday is it keeps the crowd slightly smaller. I think with the way the events are going, if we had it on a Saturday, it would be, I don't know if it'd be too much or, I don't know. I thought,
I make one suggestion with having it on the New Year's Eve during the week. I had a lot more staff. We have a lot of guys that are out too, but I had just about all the public works guys out there, so it ran a lot smoother. Either quicker and we got rid of the stuff. So, on my end, I'd rather see it on New Year's Eve. Even if it's on a Saturday, Sunday. Well, sometimes it's a lot better. On New Year's Eve, I think. Personally.
it seems to be the consensus. I think.
No, I mean, like you said, if you have it not on New Year's, you have to.
Yeah, that's what we did in the past.
First couple years, it was on New Year's Eve. And then they said, oh, well, let's move it back to the weekend because people have to work. But now it's gotten so big that I think it will also control the crowd, give us a little built-in crowd control.
Okay. Move on.
If you're gonna make it during the week, why not move it back to the fire company? Because like the complaint was it's too small, but that was also when it was on the weekend or whatever.
Yeah, but they have 1,500 people, that would still be too small.
Oh.
And being outside probably deters some people as well. Yeah.
Our next event coming up is Saturday, February 8th at Grange Park from 4 to 7. It's our Winterfest event. We have a couple cool elements similar to last year, some new items as well. Don't want to give them all away, but we are seeing our vendor registrations roll in at a high rate, working on all the different elements of that. Bands are in the process of being booked for this event. We have a couple different bands and interactive elements as a part of this as well. So it's going to be an exciting night. The Board of Supervisors did approve for Emily and myself for the township run events approval to work within the regulations to have vendors such as McCall's or Clover Hill or Vinecrest at our events. So we have that set up to be prepared to do that for all of our events this year. And a couple have already committed. So it's going to be a great event. Hopefully the wind cooperates just as well as it did for New Year's Eve, and we should be in great shape. Right after that is our next snowshoeing and hot chocolate night hike at Lone Lane Park on February 15th. It is not at night for this one. It's during the day from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. because that falls on President's Weekend. The Wildlands Conservancy. They do. They do. We're taking care of the hot chocolate part.
Like, for some reason.
If there is a blizzard, knock on wood, we will make decisions for the safety of everyone. We will come over the plan. Yeah. Something new this year, just kind of rolling into the rest of the report. Emily started a e-newsletter that we're going to be putting out monthly. Well, we do know we have the biannual newsletter that goes out to print. This will be something that goes to our subscriber email list. That list is approximately 9,000 subscribers. And our first one that we put out on New Year's Day had a 36% open rate, which is a pretty good rate for us. And within that email were links to program registrations or sign up for a sponsorship or things like that. And we had 568 clicks within those emails. So we're going to how many people, instead of just hitting delete, opened the email and kind of took a look at it, actually fully read it. Anyone who opened it in their email, which I know as emails get flooded, is a little tougher to do. But we have one scheduled for February 1st, and we're going to continue to do it on the 1st of every month. So we're being more communicative about what is going on. The comprehensive park rec open space plan updates, our public survey. These numbers are old as of last week. We're actually up to 1,095 responses. So we're just at about 1,100. And Simone Collins has told us this is the biggest response they've gotten to a public survey in any of the projects that they've done. We had our fourth steering committee back on the 14th of January, and our second public meeting was just this past Tuesday on the 21st. The steering committee is giving good feedback to Simone Collins about where to go with their reports and public meetings. Public meeting presented initial concepts. So while I know some comments tonight mentioned that there wasn't something for every park, it was more the initial, and there's going to be continuing to build upon that. Our next steering committee and public meetings are in March. Dates are March 4th for the fifth steering committee meeting and March 13th for the third public meeting. As far as just a brief update with the community center, Emily and I have taken some tours of various municipal run community centers to talk to their staff about operations, challenges, successes, to get idea sharing for what's going to be coming. So we're continuing to work on that. So we're in the best shape possible for when it opens. We have some grant status things in here just to keep everyone aware. We did apply for some LSA local share account grants from the Department of Community Economic Development for the state. The three we put in were to replace the playground equipment at Bryansville Earl Adams Memorial Park, a Grange Park basketball court improvements, things like resurfacing, fencing, new backboard equipment, bleachers, player amenities, and also another leaf truck for our public works department to increase our leaf collection and cleanup duties. We have not heard back on those grants yet, but they have been submitted. For Tree Pennsylvania, I know we talk about trees in Grange, but we also need trees in other parks. So we were awarded a Tree Pennsylvania Environmental Justice grant to plant 60 trees at Bryansville Park this spring, which will be happening. And then we will continue to apply for grants twice a year on the grant cycles of Tree Pennsylvania to continue to plant trees in our various parks. Grange obviously being one with a heavy need, and we continue to plant trees as much as we can. We're also still waiting on a couple other grants for various projects as well. I can keep going. The board obviously in December, since we last met, did approve the Parks and Recreation budget for 2025. It is a very healthy budget to help us with programming and events and accomplish the priorities that the township presidents would like us to do. We are expanding some programming and some opportunities. We're enhancing a summer camp program as well with some various elements, and we're excited to have the opportunity to put this program together for 2025. The event schedule I'll talk about briefly. I'm going to skip that and come back to it with sponsorships. I already talked about the newsletter. Emily and I are currently collecting all the information for the spring summer 2025 newsletter, which would cover March through August. So we're working with the various departments, our instructors, our advertisers to make sure all that information is ready to go. We have a goal of March 3rd to have it out in households, right ahead of summer camp registration. Sponsorship package updates. In your packet, you have a copy of a little bit of a revamped sponsorship and recognition opportunities that we worked on. It's building upon what Mike and Emily had put into place before I got here, with some feedback from the Upper McCutcheon Township Community Fund, which is working on big scale fundraising and sponsorships for the community center. So to just go over it real quick, we really want to highlight who we are as the Park and Rec Department. We provide a list of the 20 events that are scheduled from the Parks and Rec Department this year, starting with Winterfest and ending with Kids New Year's Eve. What you will see in there is there's our typical ones like the Fishing Derby and National Night Out and pickleball tournaments. We actually added a pickleball tournament. We doubled the number of movies from 3 to 6, and we took our concerts from a one-off concert food truck festival to 6 concerts. So we are looking at having reoccurring monthly programming from May through October. So every third Friday is a movie, every fourth Saturday is a concert. So trying to get in the habit of that there are events and programs here in our parks. I will say our movies will be rotating to various parks throughout the township. They're not all going to be in the same spot. The concerts for this year, we are going to keep at Grange because of the size and scope we feel they're going to be. So we have, and thank you for mentioning that because I forgot to put it on my report. Emily did send out a movie survey to our subscriber list. So this isn't her and I in the catalog picking what we're going to show. And it's put out there to our subscribers, and we're going to go off that data as to what movies the township and its residents would like to see. So she's got a very good response so far. We have until next week because we want to lock in those titles, double check any blackout showing dates that movies may not be allowed to be shown, and then we can start promoting those events.
What do they like saying? What do they want to say?
Emily gave 3 titles per date, and of those 3, we want to see which one's the leader in the clubhouse, and we'll go with those. We're seeing a trend of a lot of family-oriented movies, newer movies, some good turnouts. So it's exciting. Thank you.
Basically, would you say that they're mostly like younger kid movies?
Some, for example, I know Wicked was on one of the choices, so I'd say it's a little older, but definitely family, definitely kid. Also tied to themes, so kind of tried to guide in a theme oriented, trunk or treat, or fall festival, kind of fall or trick or treat style. For the fire safety night, it's more superhero, first responder kind of themed. So kind of going from there.
Never asked, but did you see like there was a lot of kids people watching the movie on the?
There were a couple hundred. Just going further with it, on the one page is our tiers and what those benefits are. So while it's nice for someone to cut you a check and smile and cash it and help with your programs, we also want our sponsors to be active in what we're doing. So a lot of those benefits, while we are recognizing our sponsors for the money they provide, we also invite them to our events and programs. One sponsor in 2024, Sting Pest Control, as an example, does promote their business, but at Kids New Year's Eve, they had a balloon machine that, blew up the balloons and helped twist them and make balloon animals for kids, or bringing yard games. They're adding to the experience, not just cutting a check. So that's something we are valuing and making sure they are a part of. It goes on to continue to talk about some opportunities, smaller scale opportunities for the community center, and then connecting to the bigger opportunities. And it also continues our Remembrance Tree and Memorial Bench program. We added something about a pavilions. So to help us with amenities and upkeep of pavilions, if someone's business wants to adopt and sponsor a pavilion, we'll work with them on what our needs are for amenities and upgrades that will make it a better beneficial to the township. If you have anyone interested in being a sponsor or be recognized, please share that information with them, and the more the merrier. And just lastly, updates about pavilions and field rental processes. One thing we're really focusing on is making sure we know everything that's going on and getting more data about how our parks are being used. That's a recommendation from our comprehensive park rec open space plan. Is up until this point, there are some gaps in what we know and how things are being used, and we've changed that with the rec desk software. So in 2025, when a request is put into rec desk, it is a request. It is not an automatic approval that when you click rent, you go on your way, you pay, you're on your way. We are reading over the paperwork and the checklist or the comments that are made when something is submitted, because we want to determine if it's appropriate. For example, it could be a pavilion rental. Someone wants to rent a pavilion, but by their answers and conversation with us, it's actually a larger scale special event. So we want to be able to catch some of those things and some of those challenges. Same thing with field use. We want to make sure there's no double bookings. We want to make sure that if there's a large scale tournament and there's a family game request, that how we evaluate those things. It was a little bit rough to start, to be honest, in the first week. A couple of hiccups we had to work through, but I think we updated the website. We're doing the email blast about the instructions and the changes. We asked that people give us about 5 total days to review the request and vet through them. And then we also put a time limit on them that once it's reviewed and approved for payment. So we want to make sure we're closing some of those gaps in that process. That's all I got on the report stuff.
All right.
Does SPYA,
They're a youth organization with a lot of township members to this point. We work with them on various things, but currently no. That's not it's a typical arrangement in various municipalities.
do they have any priority over other people that are paying?
We work with on schedule. So I can tell you back in November, we gave them our event schedule and also large scale special events to be aware of and plan around. Thank you. Yep, Briansville Vet, a BVET's organization as well.
Yeah, I think we're so focused on Grange as a township. If we could somehow spread out, like Apple Park used much.
Yes. SPYA uses Apple Park for soccer.
Why can't they build their wall there?
I think they answered that on the
Moving along. To go along with what Rod was saying, it's gonna be super ugly.
Yeah, that's why they're gonna look into see what they can do. All right. Park traffic.
Yep. So we're evaluating it. We put a note on it with the comprehensive park rec open space plan to have discussion in our public meetings about. We've looked at some costs and other elements involved with porta potties in the interim of what those costs and logistics look like. So it is something we're working towards. Not anything final at the moment, but we are going to keep this on our radar to address. Yep, I'll make sure I have an update for you for next month.
Shade trees at Green Park. What's that come off?
I can take that off for you. We are continuing to work on tree plans for everywhere. So. So for K-Brook Green Hills, I say Russet Road. Depending on who I talk to, I get yelled at, so I do apologize. We are using the first movie night. The board had recommended tying it in with an event. So May 9th is our movie in the park up at K-Brook, and we will work with the board to come up with the elements that you want to see at that event for the movie night. Our goal with the movie nights is not just to have an inflatable screen, hit play, and go about it. We really want to add elements. Obviously, the new playground is there. This does time frame is too early for anything in collaboration with the pool because the pool's not open for the season yet. But we think we can bring other interactive elements to make it a neighborhood and family event. And speaking with members of the neighborhood, specifically Mike, we don't want this to be a event that brings 1,500 people to a movie night at K-Brook Greenhouse. We are going to make sure in our promotion and efforts that we tailor towards the neighborhood rather than a lot of the blast that we do for other bigger facilities. I know it may be a challenge, but we also don't want the neighborhood to have 1,000 cars show up and block all the roads.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but at the same point, the township residents also pay for that part.
Sure.
They should be notified that it's now open and available for you.
We will deal with that challenge and we'll work towards it. I just want to make sure we're also respectful of the fact that the infrastructure there is not a Grange. So just obviously carpool, walk, bike, walk, bike, run over, shuttle service, who knows? We'll figure something out. Walk down.
Considered in planning, utilization of buses and busing people to events.
Not yet, but that is. I heard that twice, so I wrote it down. Yep. Oh, Mike, that's a great suggestion about St. Joe's. Thank you.
Anything else? I make a motion to. Is it on the agenda?
Can we just add something?
I don't believe you can. I think it's Ryan.
If there's a new item from the board that's not on here, it's what we're about. We want to make sure we have communication on what's going on.
It is including. Make it happen.
I think perhaps we should consider a time limit for public comment and presentations.
I don't think we.
Don't they do that for board supervisors?
No, if it's something big, like they're doing something like I forget I was watching when they were doing it, and they did limit it to 3 or 4 minutes per person. But that's because they had a lot of people.
I have not seen it. In my time here, I have not.
Just help people focus to get to
Can
the
you
point
use your
and not
gavel?
louder.
It's a totally nice request.
I
But I mean,
will-
yeah, I mean, you're right. It's not a bad idea.
I will check into the rules and ask, and then I can send it back out to the board so we're aware.
Good point. Good point. All right. I make a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Jackie second. All those in favor? Aye.
Yeah.